What's up, boyos? This video's a little late because laziness. But this is my 1 year BitChute anniversary. This channel started on July 4th. So yeah, today is July 6th. This video is also sort of a precursor to the next video, which is going to be, a long overdue video about Michelle Langley's book. The second book she wrote, called Women's Infidelity 2: Breaking Out of Limbo. And I knew I needed to read that book because I stumbled onto a passage a little while ago that just summarized so much about female nature and stuff. So the reason that's taken a little while is because, I only just finished the book. I do read extremely slowly. Like, I'll read a little bit and I'll not read for like a year, then go back to it. But yeah, I just finished it, and now I'm kind of just going through the first third of the book, highlighting stuff. And Microsoft Edge has some pretty good features that lets you highlight things in PDF files, and you can like leave comments on it and stuff. So that'll make it easy for me to make a video around that book. But I just feel like maybe I'll end up highlighting too much shit and just end up straight up reading the book, because so much of the stuff in there is quotable. So I'll try to, figure that out. But anyways, if you're watching this video on YouTube, be sure to check out my BitChute channel, bitchute.com/obsidian_pill. But anyways, this is going to be a pretty standard video for me. So I'm going to start off with an axiom, which is, I hope I'm using that word right, I think I am, but people want what they can't have, or what they don't have. This video, like I said, this video is a precursor to the upcoming video about the Michelle Langley book. So a lot of this stuff is going to be relevant to the next video. People who underrate sex are usually the ones having the most or people who are blue-pilled or have sort of shut themselves off from the possibility of sexual gratification. So, the alpha widow would be an example of that person who underrates sex because she's shut herself off from it. She's kind of closed off the possibility of finding any sort of sexual gratification because, she knows that there's only so many chads to go around. Of course, she'll never admit this. She'll just go around crying about how she can't find a man. But really what she's complaining about is that she can't get a chad to commit to her. So she'll be like, she'll tell incels cliche bullshit like, focus on yourself, you don't need sex, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, she's still chasing Chad behind the scenes. So this is why in relationships, sex often becomes boring and easy to take for granted. Because, like I said, people want what they can't have or what they don't have. But people, on the other side, you have people who overrate sex, which I think incels are prone to do. Sex does solve a lot of problems, but the only thing it really does for me personally, or has ever done, is that I don't immediately want to blow my brains out. And that's not always true. So, sex is obviously like a connection to life and existence. You want to feel wanted and needed. You don't want to deprive yourself of life. And you don't you when you're quote unquote in love, you don't want to deprive the other person of you, and you don't want to deprive yourself of them by, ceasing to exist or whatever. So scarcity increases value. Like, have you ever noticed the more available a person is, the more they're signaling low value? You can typically see this when it comes to women and the simps that are constantly banging down their door. 99% of people in this world are not living consciously, and that goes even double for women. If they have something good, therefore, the tendency will be to take it for granted. You don't miss the water until the well runs dry. And this, of course, is like why women like emotionally unavailable men. And even men will tend to like the woman who's unattainable, who's quote unquote hard to get, and so on. People get rewarded for this sort of behavior, they don't get punished for it. So, anyways, I'm gonna go on a little tangent here. Funny thing happened yesterday. I went to the DMV, and some mediocre noodle whore was there with her boyfriend, and they were both about 5'6", and the guy wasn't bad looking. He was bald. He's had a completely shaven head. He was better looking than her, actually. Of course. She was like a good point below him. He was like I would say he's like a 6, or she's like a 5, or something like that. And all of a sudden, a 6-foot Chad walked in. Like a Chad light at worst. And her eyes did not leave him. Like, her eyes locked onto him, and they stayed there for like a good 10 seconds. And it's like, it's hard to see shit like that when you're black pilled, because you realize that all that dude would have to do is clap, and she'd leave her somewhat looks matched noodle man for that Chad, even if it was just for like one night. Sometimes it's just hard being black pilled and having to understand those kinds of brutal realities. On another topic, and dick pics, this is kind of related to the whole thing about scarcity, but dick pics actually work, and that's why they're so ubiquitous. The mainstream message, of course, is that they don't work, because collectively we want to retain the belief that women are not sexual beings, and that they're innocent, and that kind of filth is beneath them. I'm pretty sure, for example, it was found that women are more likely to reply to guys with ab pics on Tinder, even though they publicly state disgust over pics like of that nature. But here's the thing: men would have stopped doing this a long time ago if they didn't work. So as always, we can see women. They're supporting. They're encouraging behavior that they supposedly hate. So they're rewarding men for being vain and having dark triad traits and psychopathic traits, but at the same time, like, they'll publicly complain about that, and but it's like those kinds of traits would have been bred out a long time ago if the ultimate goal of every man were not were deterred, the ultimate goal of every man being sex, if that goal were deterred by dick pics and things like that, then men would have stopped doing that a long time ago. So when women say they don't like that, what they're really doing is signaling for low value men. They're virtue signaling, but they're also signaling for low value men to not do that. You know, the kinds of men who know they can't get away with that. It takes, notice it takes two people to hook up, yet men receive all the blame for hookup culture. Like, something is just not adding up here. Like, for example, you look at the guy with the supposedly largest penis in the world, and in terms of he's like an incel in terms of how he looks, but women actually pay him to have sex with him. Like, we're really just props to them. And, you look at the podcast, there's a post circulating on, MGTOW and incel communities about the most popular podcast for women is Call Her Daddy, which is obviously some stupid bullshit where they talk about stupid shit and like the Kardashians and sex. And the most popular podcast for men is Joe Rogan's Jewish bullshit. But the thing is, when you just look at the subject matter, you see like what interests men is philosophy and like deep thought, ideology, exchange of ideas, and like all this interesting stuff. That's what interests men. But then you look at the women's side, and it's like the only thing that really interests them is sex and how they can get attention, and just like really stupid, childish, infantile sorts of things. And this is the gender that we give equality. We say they're equal. Like, no, they're not. Sorry. So women no longer provide domesticity, loyalty, or virginity. They don't even pretend to do this anymore. So why do we still owe them? Why as men are we still expected to financially support them? What they offered to a man originally in exchange for financial security was those things. So why are we still held to the same standard where we must support them? Feminism has changed the roles, but the problem with feminism is that women only wanted liberation for themselves, but at the same time, they've also, to a degree, they've necessarily have had to also liberate men, and that's never what they wanted. They wanted to liberate themselves, but still keep men in chains and still keep men subject to the same provider gender role, human ATM machine. But the whole reason that men were doing that was in exchange for what value they could give us, and now they're not giving that value to us anymore. They've accepted a deal with the devil. Most people are short-sighted. The deal with the devil is basically the liberal doctrine. You can have everything that you want now and do everything that you want now, but I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen as a consequence of that. I'm not going to tell you how you're going to fuck up your dopamine receptors. I'm not going to tell you how you're going to fuck up your pair bonding abilities permanently. I'm not going to tell you how you're going to gradually lose the ability to feel pleasure. I'm not going to tell you about how you're going to be an alpha widow. All these women are walking around not realizing what happened to them and they're being angry at the wrong things. But, really they should be angry at themselves. But of course, most people will never blame themselves for their predicament in life. Not even me. So, like even I don't really blame myself. But to a degree, it is my fault. Like, because I don't look smacks. I don't do the things that I can do. Not that they would make a huge difference, but, But anyways, the irony is that women can see themselves as victims in so many different ways, but not when it comes to the ways in which they might actually be victims, where they might actually have a case, which is that they kind of fell for this false ideology of liberation, sexual liberation, and feminism. So they'll complain about hookup culture and all these things until the cows come home. But are they going to give up their ability to partake in that? Hell fucking no, right? You can't have it both ways, though. You can either have a sexually repressed society or a sexually liberated society. You can't be halfway free. You can't be kind of free. You're either free or you're not. This world would be so much more tolerable if only lies did not persist as much as they do. I got a quick note on JBB, which is that, one thing I kind of forgot to mention in my video about that is a lot of the incels who complain about JBB, I think they do so because they perceive the black man as low value. So seeing a black man with a chick is like they can see 100 white guys with women, and it'll be like, okay, whatever. But if they see that one black dude with the chick, then it's like, oh my god, wow, JBB, these black guys are getting all the girls, blah blah blah. And like out here, you do kind of see that, but it's always Tyrone. Like, it's always, like where I am right now, you see it pretty often, but it's always like a Tyrone type dude. And even then, it's like there's a certain degree to which incels, that kind of poisons the whole narrative, because I've been that guy with a woman where people automatically just assume that I'm having sex with that woman. But it's like, I never did, Or if I did, it was only like once. But it's like, I've been that guy. You mean to tell me you've never hung out with a female and that you never ever slept with or never did anything with? So it's like, you don't actually know who's sleeping with who. For all you know, they're in a swingers relationship, or they're in a financial cucking situation where he gives her money and she doesn't do anything. So it's like, we can't overlook that. But at the same time, it's like to a degree, like just a guy being with a girl is kind of like her accepting him, because women don't hang out with guys unless they like, either getting money from him or they're like attracted to him in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, honesty is the best policy is a fucking lie. I mean, you look at the kind of dark triad behavior that's rewarded in this world, and it's almost like these women who repeat that cliche, they say that just so the other person is honest, or the good people out there, the good men out there are honest, and therefore give them the advantage, while they don't even follow that themselves. They always lie, and then they tell themselves that they're being honest because they're pieces of shit. But yeah, if only the lies of this world were not so widespread, you know. It's like you need a job to get money, you need money to get a car, you need a car to get a job. You need connections and social skills to get a job. You need looks, extroversion, and luck to get connections. And it just goes on and on and on in like this endless spiral. Morality and looks. A person's morality, according to others, which is like kind of the only morality that matters, is all about looks. You know, what makes a person rich and famous is looks or luck of being like born into whatever situation or whatever. The moral value of a person does not exist in a vacuum, or just the value period of a person's character or whatever. It does not exist independently of the superficial qualities of who they are, whether it's race, religion, looks. But yeah, once I get to my Michelle Langley video, one of the main things that I'm gonna be talking about is like why relationships are so draining for women. And you know, really the main reason for that is because they delegate responsibility for their happiness. The easiest thing for a female to blame her unhappiness on is whatever relationship she's in. But when you delegate, you are changing superficial realities, and you're not making internal changes. So, when a woman cheats on a man, she's blaming the man for her unhappiness, essentially. She's saying, "Oh, I just need someone else, and then I'll be happy." Or I just need to not be in this relationship and I'll be happy. She's not acknowledging her role because, ironically, she brought into a predetermined role of femininity fed to her by society, by her mom, her dad, etc., which is that the man is supposed to make you happy. And we're all working towards security and comfort, but once we get there, our lives lose meaning. So they get to this point where they only see net positives and alternatives. So they say, I just need a richer man, I just need a bigger man, I just need a man who does this or that, a taller man, better looking, whatever. That goes into what I was saying about compartmentalizing and how women don't see men holistically in a previous video. If only I can make his wallet bigger, or I can make his dick bigger, etc. I really think this is the kind of stuff that they think about. And what they don't see is that, you know, for example, if like the man of means, if you get the man of means, it's like that's the guy who has options and can be pickier. So, you know, it might be nice to have a dude who has more money or whatever, but he's going to be less inclined to loyalty because he has more options. And if he's not getting what he wants, then he might very well kick you to the curb, and you lose the financial crutch that he gave you. It's not like that's an unheard of story. So it's like, and what, you know, if a guy knows what he can get away with because the woman relies on him financially, it's like, what if he starts smacking you around all of a sudden? You know, people tend to do what they can get away with. But, you know, as a friend of mine says, pride goes before the fall. And vanity is the downfall of these women. So even as they're hitting the wall, even as their value goes down, their standards are actually going up. Like, their standards are constantly ascending, even as their value goes down, and they're just too delusional to see that their value is going down. That's the Alpha Widow dilemma.